It is my pleasure to introduce to you a very sterling individual in the landscape not only of Trinidad and Tobago, but certainly in the Caribbean region. He's one of Caribbean's most prominent businessmen and a founding director of the Lok Jack Graduate School of Business. He is the chairman of Associated Brands Industries Limited and one of the largest privately owned operations in the region, employing more than 1,500 persons, and sits on several other boards of public and private companies. He is the winner of the Ernst & Young Master Entrepreneur 2001, the University of the West Indies Caribbean Luminaries Award 2002, the University of the West Indies Honorary Doctorate 2002, and the recipient of the Shakonia Gold Medal in August 2004. Join me as we invite this team, Mr. Arthur Lok Jack, on stage along with Professor Carillo for a one-on-one discussion with Mr. Lok Jack. Put your hands together.
For giving us your Saturday, which, you know, it's a very special time. These are very turbulent times for this generation. I was just sharing with them what a week we had in the financial markets. So, someone like you who's actually immersed in the world, how can you describe our current context from the economic perspective and social perspective, and what do you see the implications of this complex environment for this new generation going forward?
Well, first of all, let me say good morning to everybody. Thank you very much, actually, for that warm welcome. Thanks for the nice words that were said. And, well, you're right, Miguel, we do live in some very turbulent times, especially what is happening right now in the world, where we've seen. There's a phrase that people like to use, and people like to use, you know, we're doing this by best practice. And the question is, what is best practice? And usually best practice used to mean that you take a scan and you see what certain people are doing and certain corporations, you know, the governance issues and everything, and how things were governed and all of that, both from a corporate point of view, political point of view, etc. But we've seen within the last, I would say, 3 years, the crash of a lot of major institutions around the world that we used to look up to and say, they practice best practice. And so it opens the whole question of what is best practice and who do you follow. Difficult at this point in time to put your finger on that. And because we've seen biggest banks in the world, the biggest financial institutions, we've seen the US up to a couple of days ago, you know, in turmoil, actually can't get together within the Congress to decide actually whether to raise the debt ceiling and how they're going to pay, the US going to pay their bills. Next month's salaries could not be paid until they came to a thing. So basically we've seen this kind of complexity almost get into the stage of moving from crisis almost into chaos. And one has to understand how to navigate those waters and so on. And I want to come back to one thing, and I think we all know what is wrong and right. And I think what you have to do is to be very careful in your thinking, think through the issues, not necessarily group think, but your mind. That's what you were born with, that's what the good Lord gave you, and that's what you're going to die by yourself with. So basically it's yours. Probe, ask questions, and I think actually seek on your own benefit, for your own benefit, and utilizing your own brain as to what direction you want to take, and do it within an ethical framework. Actually, it seemed to me that over the years, people have come to believe that if I do something and get away with it, I'm smart. And so on. And I think that kind of thinking, we have to go back to the old-time ethical behavior of trying to know is it wrong or is it right. And I think that's very important, Miguel. So you have to question, actually, what is so-called best practice, in my view. Again, I mean, for instance, if everybody followed the big airlines of the world, then there wouldn't be a low-cost airline existing. And we all know that low-cost airlines came in big time into this. So the low-cost airlines, or the no-frills airlines, or the JetBlues and the Ryanairs of this world, they didn't follow best practice. They came up with their own model and was very disruptive to the industry. But they succeeded and forced the major airlines to become much more efficient. So I think you have examples of that around the world, and I think that's what I like to. Maybe I could stop here now. And
what do you think will be? We'll talk about kind of questioning the best practices, but what do you think should be now, especially for professionals living in the context of the Caribbean, the next practices, not the best, but the next practices that they should actually try to develop themselves and look forward? The next one.
Well, it all depends on what your ambition. I think, again, we have to think in terms of a person. And you have to do your own introspection and retrospection to a point, and decide what is your ambition, and what are your goals, and what do you want to achieve. And it's something that you have to decide upon. And how bad do you want it? Are you going to be, you have to be passionate about it. You have to have a lot of energy and be energetic and passionate about what you want to become, what you want to do. And anybody can do it, and anybody can become a success in what you set out to do. The problem is you have to invest in it, and how you invest your time, how you invest your resources in it. And that brings about the question of risk, actually. Very important question of risk, actually, in respect of how you want to go through. What are you risking? Are you risking your family life if you go to school, if you work hard, if you try to do things? Are you risking too much if you were to try to go into your own business and utilize your savings? Actually, these are all questions that one has to ask for oneself in respect of what you want to do. And whatever you want to do going forward, whether it's professional, whether it's to be an entrepreneur, whether it is to be a top-class executive in a corporation, or whatever your thing is. I'm talking in a business context because we're in the business school, actually. Whatever you want to do in that context, I think you have to move very rapidly, very fast. Time is of the essence. And you can shorten that time by really putting a lot into it. So it's how much you want to sacrifice in your own life to be able to become what you want to become.